Okay, hello. This is my fourth take, and my third take I thought was going to be my last, but I was kind of OCD'd into making this fourth one. It is now 2:15 in the morning, so hopefully this is my last take. What I have behind me is a classic creative mode note block machine running the main theme of Balatro. But if you haven't noticed from that one was that was a bit too fast, because this is running on 4 game ticks per quarter note, which is quite a bit faster than 100 beats per minute. Turns out, to get as close as possible using Redstone's quantized system, you need to get 6 Redstone ticks per quarter note, which is fine for the quarter note, not so fine for the rest of the subdivided beats. You can hit 8th notes, but then 16th notes become kind of a problem. So we can solve that, as right here, with these piston desyncs, because pistons extend in 3 ticks. So that was 12 ticks inside a single quarter note. That was running at 6 redstone ticks, or 12 game ticks. And then I extended this out here so that you can put a ton of notes on every single tick, and it's super modularized, so all you have to do is duplicate the array and you can get as many quarter notes as you want. But there is, of course, a slight problem with this. As you can see, the notes are really confusing to follow, and I can even slow that down. Tick freeze. 1, then 2 is here, 3 here, 4, this is the E, here, and as you can see, like jumping back and forth and all this, it's really confusing. When designing a really massive array, you can get kind of lost. This array also has a second problem, which I will demonstrate. As you noticed, I can't hear the song anymore because of the note block distance. And it should wrap around. Here it comes. Yep. Now we're here. So to solve that, we can try and make this smaller. You don't actually have to use pistons to desync on every game tick. You can just use scaffolding. So if there you go. That was it. That's all it took. And you can also drag out this redstone signal to play as many chords as you want. But because of how tightly packed they are now, there's a slight problem with the note blocks triggering each other and stuff. So I split them up vertically, as you can see. Quarter note is here, the E is here, and then I split the 8th note half of the beat onto a different array. This does sacrifice some of the chord size. You can still extend this, of course, as far as the redstone signal goes, but some get less signals because you can't put a note block here, otherwise it will trigger on both the cyan note and the orange note. No big deal though. And it's a lot smaller, so this entire array now is one measure instead of that gigantic monster. So if I hit it, but it still kind of has a problem with the dynamics trailing off on beat 4, which is all the way out here, compared to beat 1, which is really close. So you would have to stand kind of awkwardly in the middle and arrange these. I did develop a second solution to this, which uses rails instead of redstone. That was just 1 quarter note. Anyway, after some mild debugging, I have it all fixed. This uses rails, so I can line them up right next to each other, and then use observers to pick up the signal. And this lets me put the notes even closer together. So this is now 1 quarter note instead of that long thing. And I can put more notes into it. Although you've noticed there's a slight issue with transparent blocks. I can't put a transparent block on top of this. Otherwise, no sound will come out. Setting aside glowstone, which is the only transparent block that I'm using, I can line up all of the notes. But there's still a motion problem. Even no matter how small I make it, the current design principle is focused on having these certain arrays that need to be duplicated, which is also expensive, and you need to just like move through them. It's just, fortunately, I can move a lot less with this, but this is not going to be enough for the theme of Balatro. And that brings us to my final idea, which is instead of walking to the music, you can bring the music to you. Again, we have the scaffolding here, and I've now replaced the chords with, instead of creating chords using rails, the chords are done using walls, because the walls will all update on the same game tick. So each of these notes in this single vertical array will be activated all at once. So how do we move the note blocks in such a way that, number one, it's going to be easy to write the music. All you have to do is place the blocks and then send them off to whatever machine is working on them, and then the machine will bring the blocks here. I have designed a piston feed tape that is non-functional, and that's why I've given up. This is a modularized feed tape that zigzags up and down to minimize the amount of space that this uses. Of course, there are some issues with this. So the first issue is that this is still too slow. To be ready for the next note, this piston needs to push 2 notes. This needs to push 2 blocks, because there's going to be a block under this. It needs to push 2 blocks out of the way within 12 game ticks. And I could give myself more time by duplicating this array, but I want to avoid doing that for Balatro, because Balatro's in 7. So if I do that, writing it, it's going to be a huge pain. This array can't do that, because even though it is tiled so that each of these pistons that are facing in this direction all fire at the same time, each of these turns takes 5 game ticks. But even if I use these turns to minimize the amount of time, that's 3 game ticks for this push, 5, 10, 13, and then 18. It's 18 game ticks, which is way too slow. And as for a solution to that, you can probably also fire these pistons too at the same time as you fired the piston down here. And that would give you, if you fired these both at the same time, you would only have to wait 8 game ticks per push, which is still a bit too slow for 12 game ticks. Still doesn't make the cut. The second issue, of course, to sync up everything, I've been using instant wired bud powered rails. But these don't exactly tile next to each other. If you try and tile next to each other, I haven't even finished building it, but already you can see what the problem is. It's just going to be constantly firing all the time, which might work. They don't stack next to each other, because when they stack next to each other, their updates they'll start updating each other, or you can try and vertically adjust them, but then the observers that are trying to watch from the top get offset. And this needs to be perfectly tileable within this section, because they need to stack next to each other so that each feed tape can work on each note. I've been working on a solution which can try and update both of these 2 notes together on the same rail. And I've run into a problem with this bottom section that needs to be updated. To push this, I was using redstone target block, which doesn't work, because if we imagine there's another array here, then there's going to be another 2 pieces of redstone here, and they're going to connect, and it's going to trigger the next feed tape before it's ready. I have no idea how I'm going to trigger both of these pistons at the same time from the same rail without going outside of this little zone, and just assuming that there is going to be a piston here. There's going to be pistons here. Without powering these pistons, I want to power both of these pistons at the same time. So either we can try and figure out how to put 2 instant update wires next to each other, or we can try and figure out how to make these pistons get pushed at the same time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm so freaking tired right now, and I just want to play some survival, and I want to stop worrying about this. I'm gonna work on the feed tape a little bit more. Probably give up on it for now, and I'll revisit it in a couple of months. Oh man.